Pum 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 pum. And come on, Twitch, tell me. Yeah, we're live. All right. So since we're live, I will go ahead and tell everybody on Twitter. I'm sure that they're all eager to watch me stream some game dev. Streaming indie dev, gonna break time and space. Paste. All right, now with that done, let's get to the streaming. Whew, all right, exciting opening today. Let's go ahead and talk about what we're going to work on just a little bit here. I was thinking about all of the user problems, all the problems that I have to get through in order to make it so that the game is compelling and not distracting. It has a lot of similarities to other kinds of games, and it's very dangerous to lean on those standards because then the player gets the wrong idea as to what's possible and what he should be doing. Good example of that is that this game focuses on the particular scenes where something is happening. But most players are used to games where you control the crew 24/7 and it's all about managing their time efficiently. This is the exact opposite of that. So how do I try and have that happen without having it all feel weird? I don't want the players to try and control the crew 24/7. I want them to understand that they're reacting to complicated scenes instead. The answer is I can change how I do time progression and how I handle the camera. So as an example, right now what happens is I hop into the world and I get this view of the ship. And then when the crew starts to do their thing, I get a very slightly different view of the ship. What makes a lot more sense is for us to have a cinematic where it's like, you know, day 35 and then I get the ship falling across. So this is what I see, and then when an event happens, it zooms out a little bit and I have that annoying splash screen that I don't need. So instead what I'm going to have happen is I'm going to zoom in on the ship using a cinematic. And you see this T+5, I'm going to change that to a much more interesting, you know, alien style, you know, day 5, shift 4, journey of the Agamemnon, and then I'll do a zoom in. Something like that. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to change how the camera system works and what it's trying to do. Only problem with that is right now we have a different camera when the scenario starts as opposed to the camera that we would normally be using in between space. But before we do anything about that, let's go ahead and work on the basic pop-up on the side of the screen that says Day X, Journey of whatever. Now we are going to want to use a custom font at some point, but for now we're going to go ahead and leave that off and not worry about that much. But what we're going to do is we're going to take this here. We have to decide on the exact kind of user system we've got. Another thing we're going to be doing is removing this pop-up over here. This was an interesting idea, but unfortunately it removes us from getting close to the characters, which is a no-no. I need to have a lot of... I need the characters to feel like they're doing stuff, and because of that I think I'm going to have a comic book style pop-up text boxes. We'll get there. First let's work on this though. So if we take a look at the upper left corner, what it does now is it counts. Very basic. See, boom, boom. So another thing I'm going to do is I'm going to reduce the limits on the character setup just because right now they're really, really low. I'm going to increase them rather because right now they're really, really low. So if we go up to the avatar human alpha crew, here it is this where the maximum stress is held? No, I think it's in a species. No, it must be in the social brain. It doesn't actually say here. That's interesting. Maybe I hard-coded it. That would be kind of dumb. Erdroy says, blah, and then waves his hand, I suppose. Hello. We're breaking time and space today. I'm changing how the flow of the game runs to try and make it clear what's going on with the game. So basically, when we're calculating out stress, we compute the maximum stress value right here, stress threshold. Float base stress threshold divided by 4. Where's the base stress threshold? Base stress threshold, here it is, 10. So we're going to make that 40, just so that we can have a little bit more time with our characters. Right now, the characters aren't properly being saved and loaded, so that should actually work. You can see that the days are passing up here, and that our characters are doing their thing. So what we're going to want to do is create an in-between here, where something is on the screen, but it doesn't matter what it is. We're going to be focused mostly on being extra clear that you're not doing anything. So we're going to need a camera that just does nothing, and it does nothing in a way that's vaguely cinematic. But first we're going to want to have this feel a little bit more fun. So let's go ahead and change it to an opaque black, or an almost opaque black. And then the text we will change to a bright, eye-searing blue, like this. So right now, what we have here is a maybe green would be better. So this just changes the color. It's still the same thing. What we're going to want to do is add in a couple more lines that are going to explain what's going on. So that opacity is not as opaque as I thought it would be. So let's increase the opacity again here. We could also put in another glowing border to draw attention to this. Let's see how that looks when we do it by duplicating here and dropping it inside. This can go away. This can be moved down. It's all good. It's all good. And this will have a 3x3 3x3 by 3x3 border insert. And over here, this will have the same kind of bright outline like this. Oh, I think Erdroy was talking about my time blah. That's why he said blah. Yeah, that makes sense. So here we've got our time, but as you can see, it just says t plus 15, t plus 16, so on and so forth. What we need to do is have that be much more interesting. When we do this live on datechange.invoke, it's just a Unity query, Unity event. See, here it is. And what we do is we change our text.text to the onDateChanged string. And you can see that here is where we get that. It says t plus. So we're going to change t plus into day space. And that's the first thing we're going to need to do. There we are, day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4. That's good. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to move that text box in a little bit more. And we're going to start to tweak the exact contents of this box. So, for example, this text box is currently the size of the entire object. Instead, what we're going to want to do is link it to the lower right and then bring it down into scale like so. We can, if we would like, either left or right justify that. I think that it's fine the way it is, though. So we're going to call this the time text. We're going to duplicate that and put it on the upper left here. Excuse me. So today is the St. Patrick's Day Parade. Last year I was really unlucky and I streamed through the St. Patrick's Day Parade, including all of the cannon fire. This year they appear to have passed in front of my house a little bit faster, and there's no longer any cannon fire. So it should be a relatively quiet session, aside from my sneezing. So what we're going to do here is make this contain some kind of custom value, like Agamemnon. So that'll be like the name of the ship. We'll just call this the ship text. And we'll duplicate that and we will move it down like this. And we'll go ahead and write in something like moonshot, or rather orbital slingshot. Slingshot around Mars. Estimated duration, I don't know, 300 days. And then we'll just keep adjusting this until it is the right size for all of the things we want. So just bring this up like this. Oop. The last thing we're going to do is take this and change the color a little bit so that it's not quite as that's not the right one. Take this and change the color a little bit so it's not quite as notable. And we can take so this will be the mission text, and we can change the ship text to a color that is more interesting, like say that. There we are. So this will be in the corner of the screen when time is passing, like so. I'm not convinced that this is the best way to do it, not yet, but it's certainly better than the way we were doing it. So yeah, let's go ahead and increase the ship text size again to 22, and then we can bring it wider, and then take this mission text and bring it down, and then we can take the time panel and extend it. Perfect. So now what we need is a camera that can do stupid shots. So if we take a look at the camera on a stick, right now we've got the interior camera on. We're going to want to disable that. Boom. And that way we won't get the interior shots, we'll only get exterior shots. Like so. We've got this open right now. What we would like to do is make that start off as closed. So if we take a look at the crew talk box here, that's not what it is. It's the portrait HUD. Here it is. This should have an animator attached to it. And you can see how it says min-max or snap open. We would like to have a min-max or snap shut. No, that's a shit. That's a shoe. That's a shut. All right, there we are. And we'll go ahead and give that a super high speed as well. We will make this the default state today. And then we will shrink this over in here when we toggle. And that should be the same thing, right? Yeah. So that should start it out as closed rather than open. Except for I think that I have it going the wrong way. We will see. No, that's fine. And now what we need is a camera that does some cinematic shots of our ship. So in order to do that, we're going to need to have a cinematic camera, which we do not have. The problem is that the cinematic camera shots are likely to conflict with switching over into scene view or into the scenario. In order to work with that, it might be best to have a camera which takes commands. That sounds like it might be complicated. It might be better to have cameras which negotiate. Well, let's start off with a scenario camera. Oh, we have a scenario camera. So this scenario camera is actually the one that happens inside of scenario view, so it's not what we want. We want one that happens outside of scenario view, so we'll call it a cinematic camera. And we'll put this in the same place as all the rest of the cameras. So this is going to be namespace camera, what was it? Camera control. And tab this in and make it descend from camera control schema. There we are. So let's go ahead and write up what we're planning to make, because we're a little bit foggy at the moment. At least I am. And good. Now the car alarms are starting to go off. A camera which takes cinematic shots to fill time between interactive elements. Players may change, may open menus and stuff while this happens in the background. To do, make interactive when the player takes control. To alter ship setup. Okay, so with the cinematic camera, we're going to be able to focus in on the ship, but we're going to want to have some kind of fun sweeping camera angle. So that means that we're going to want to move through or past the ship, spin around the ship, that sort of stuff. So to do that, we're going to come up with float range equals 100 and range delta equals -1. Protected float angle sweep angle delta equals 3. And then what we're going to want to do is override the camera update. Here it is. I can't remember which of these is the one we need to override. So let's go over to the declaration in camera control schema. So let's go ahead and add in some comments here so we don't keep forgetting. Works even if the player is not actively controlling the camera. When the player is manually controlling the camera. There we go. So here in manual update, what we're going to want to do is steadily change the range. So range plus equals range delta. And then what we'll do is we will set the camera to that range from our ship. To do that, we get the camera, the universe on a stick, a camera on a stick. And then we can change where these arms are and what they're doing. So if we take a look here, T is the transform for the camera on a stick itself, and that should be on the target. The universe camera is the camera that's viewing the planets and stuff. It doesn't move. The ship camera and the ship arm are the ones that we need to take some concern with. So what we're going to do is we're going to say that the ship arm, so vector 3 offset equals camera on a stick dot ship arm dot position dot normalize. And then we say offset times equals range, and then we say offset equals camera on a stick dot ship arm dot position, so it's vector 3 lerp, camera on a stick dot ship arm dot position offset, and then time dot delta time. And we can just actually set that straight here. And then we can rotate it by a specific amount. So we will say camera on a stick dot t dot rotate, and then we can specify what sort of angle and axis we would like to rotate on. So we're going to choose vector 3 dot up, and we're going to choose the angle delta times time dot delta time, and we are going to choose the local space. So there we are. All right, so that actually shouldn't be space.self now that I'm thinking about it, because if it is, then our camera will end up panning below the ship rather than around the top of the ship. So this is going to be space.world, and this is going to be target dot transform. I think it's already a transform. Target dot up. There we are. So we currently don't have a cinematic camera set up anywhere, but we can put one onto our camera on a stick right now. You can see that we have a simple orbital controller here. That's probably not what we're going to end up using. That's what we're using sometimes. I think if we deleted that, it would break the system, because that's not being added to the stack, but it's being pushed to the stack later on when we actually take a scenario view. Is it? I don't think it is. Let's go ahead and remove it. We'll add in our scenario cam here, or sorry, a cinematic cam. So if we hit play, nothing is going to happen because we haven't hooked anything up. Elboechi says, "Hey Craig, hello. I just started and I'm trying to change the way time works. So what I'm doing now is I'm setting up a cinematic camera so that when time is passing, you're not given a view of the ship that implies that you should be doing things. But I need to finish hooking it up. There it is, camera schema. So we're just going to drop this down into that camera schema. Hit save, hit play. And now we should have a camera zooming thing going on here. Yeah. Zoof. And you can see that we get lots of problems with that. So this should be offset times time.delta time. This should be a range of like 1,000. Yeah, that's not the view I was going for, Elboechi. That was just me screwing up and forgetting that I had to actually multiply by time.delta time. Of course, now that I've brought the view out to 1,000, it's... Why is it so close? It shouldn't be that close. Let's go ahead and make these public so that I can see what the heck's going on. That doesn't look like a range of 826 meters to me. That looks like a range of 8 meters. So if we take a look at the ship cam, yeah, see, that's nowhere near being 800 miles away. There's not an object null reference exception. Is that the problem? Ah, there's no target assigned here because the universe doesn't understand what the target would be. So what we're going to have to do is make this understand that the target is the ship. So there is no override for awake. Public void start. If target equals null, then target equals ship.playership. All compiler errors. Oh. Dot transform. Now the player ship should be assigned during awake, which happens before start, so we shouldn't have any problems now. That's more like what I had intended. It's still a little bit weird though. If we take a look at this ship cam, you can see that the range is only like 15 meters, even though in theory it should be at 700 meters. There's no longer any errors, it's just not working right. So here we can see what we do is we take the ship arm position. No, here's the problem. Local position. Elboechi says he's getting over his cold. Yay! And he says, do you just speak about whatever you're doing even if nobody is watching? It kind of feels dumb, but I guess I should. I'm doing this mostly to help myself program. So yeah, I do talk to myself if there's nobody else listening. Elboechi is helping me debug by saying that there was another position in there somewhere, and he was right. Also, I think I have more people watching these after the fact on YouTube than are watching them live on Twitch. So even though there's nobody in the chat at any given time, there will be, you know? You know, this is still not working. See, it's supposed to be 756 meters away, but it's only 17. So, oh, here's the problem. You're an idiot. That's not where you multiply by time to delta time, you idiot. This is. Yeah. Yep, you're right, Teorch. That's exactly what the Teorch. Yep, that's what the problem was, and I just fixed it. You found it at the same time I did. That's more like what I was looking for. So you can see that the idea here is that it will slowly give you a cute cinematic view of the ship. Boom, we have a scenario. So the scenario approaching warning is kind of obnoxious now. What we're going to maybe do is disable that. And the way we can do that is by telling the scenario just not to use it. So if we pull up our scenario here in our prefabs scenario, there is an initial prefab pop-up here, and we can just make that null. Now the offset I'm using right now is linear, when it should really be percentage based. So I'll have to do that. Boom. It's a little bit better in terms of implying something is going on, but we're not turning on the interior camera when we do this. So we need to open up the scenario and have it turn on the interior camera, or have the camera that it is connected to turn on the interior camera. The camera schema it's on is the camera schema here on the system, right here. We're going to want to adjust this scenario cam to reveal the interior when it is turned on. So turn on interior camera, and that's going to be camera on a stick dot interior cam dot enabled equals true. And then on, I wonder if this is an override. No. Then on void on destroy, we disable it. Okay, starting to get a little bit closer to the thing I would like. So what I'm going to end up doing is actually creating several different cinematic shot templates and then allowing the system to deal with them, you know, as they want to. One of the things that I'm not doing is focusing on the center of the object, so I have a couple of options there. All right, let's go ahead and change up the cinematic camera so that it has a couple of additional elements in it, like public class cinematic cam shot system.serializable. And then what we're going to do is we are going to create a class here. It's probably better off as a struct, which allows us to have a variety of shots and then just pick one. So public float initial range from ship, public vector 3, so public vector 3, is that a vector 3 that I want, or is it, I guess it's, so we'll go ahead and just do a couple of details first. So public float range delta, public float angle delta, and then we're going to also want a public float center progression. Tooltip. For some reason it doesn't want me to do tooltips. That's interesting. This is oh, it shouldn't be a float, it should be a vector 3. Local space offset for moving the camera arm across the ship's coordinate system. Degrees per second to spin around the ship's up axis. Range delta tooltip attribute. Amount to zoom per second. And the initial range from ship will be initial range from ship. Brilliant. We're also going to want a couple of other values here, though. Public float initial ascension. And we're going to go ahead and say tooltip attribute. Why is it tooltip attribute? It's just tooltip. What are you doing screwing up my typing? Can these not have tooltips? Oh, tooltip attribute is how it's, that's fine. Tooltip attribute is the same thing. It's a C# nonsense. So initial range from ship, initial, what's it called? Vertical ascension of camera angle. Public float initial angle. The tooltip attribute. Initial angle around ship's vertical axis. All right, there we are. So assuming these work, we should be able to do this. So let's go ahead and public cinematic cam shot shots. Cinematic. There we are. grind. That's something else, that's fine. So we are looking now at the scenario camera here, and it is intended to be, this is the wrong camera. This is the camera we need. Here we are, shots. And you can see that there are 0 shots. If we make it into 1 shot, we can change the range, the angle, the ascent, the delta, the angle delta. We can also give this a name just for the sake of having an identifier. Tooltip identifier for internal use. Perfect. So with that in mind, our element 0 will be whatever our identifier is rather than element 0. So for example, we can call this a long chase shot. And our initial range can be, 5,000. And our initial angle can be 100 or 0 maybe. I'm not sure which way is which yet. And our ascent can be maybe 10. And our range delta can be -1. And our angle delta can be 1. That's fine. And what we're going to do is have this be something that gets selected arbitrarily as we are doing stuff. So public cinematic cam shot, active shot. And then put a little note in here. Cinematic cam shot is a struct, so we duplicate it when we activate it automatically. No worries about damaging it. There we go. And here we're going to say active shot equals, or go ahead and say choose shot. We'll have our own little function for it. Public void choose shot. Active shot equals shots random.range 0, shots.length. There. And we'll go ahead and put in a quick check here. If shots.length equals 0, then debug.log error cinematic cam plus name can't choose a shot. No shots have been provided. Return. So what we're going to want to do is here in the choose shots, we're going to want to set our system up properly. So to do that, we are going to go ahead and set up all of the camera on a stick values to be what we need them to be. So camera on a stick .t.position equals target.position. But here we need to offset this by our specified offsets in the active shot. So we're going to need to have this initial range from ship and this center progression. So we're going to start with a center progression. So plus active shot dot center progression. I'll go ahead and convert the center progression separately. So vector 3 center equals active shot dot center progression. If center dot magnitude is greater than 0, then center equals center dot x plus target dot right, or times target dot right, plus center dot y times target dot up, plus center dot z times target dot forward, plus center. We're also going to need to set up our initial range. So range equals active shot dot initial range from ship. Range delta is no longer needed, neither is angle delta. We will grab those separately. We will leave range like it is so that we can modify it without having to go into a value, but that should be fine. So here we're going to go ahead and call this active shot dot range delta. Yeah. And then down here it'll be active shot dot angle delta. So another thing we're going to want to do is change that range modification into a percentage. We'll do that in a minute here. We're setting this up so that the camera on a stick actually needs to have the camera set to that position. So camera on a stick dot ship arm dot local position equals new vector 3 0 0 negative, and then we need to have the value of our range, so negative range. And if you take a look at the camera on a stick arm as it is, you can see that it's only z-value stuff. That keeps our computations quite simple as long as we're using local position, and we don't have to worry about getting things confused. What we do need to do is make the camera on a stick .t.rotation have a new situation. So quaternion .identity, and then camera on a stick .t.rotate. First, we're going to rotate around the x-axis. So it'll be target right, and then the angle that we need for the ascension. So actually, no, we want it to be target.up first. No, right. This is correct. Right first, and then up. So target.right, active shot.ascension, and then space.world. And then we want to rotate around target.up, and this will be our initial rotation, space.world. That should be all we need to do to set this up, and it should work. Let's go ahead and see whether or not this long shot actually has a nice long shot. You can see how long this shot really is. This is correct, but we are way, way off in the distance. Maybe 5,000 meters is not... Am I going the wrong way? Am I looking the wrong direction? No, we're looking the right direction. There's our camera, and there's our ship. Are we past... I bet we're past the... yeah, the culling. See, our maximum culling is only 1,000. This is actually too low for our ship camera, so we're going to change it over to 10,000. We got our event. Try that again here. So when we hit play now, oh, it went to 1,000 again. 10,000. So there isn't anything in space besides our ship. And I think that means that there's not going to be any problem with these long-range shots. You can see it's just a speck at this range, but we are getting closer. So what I'd like to do is add in a couple of small values here. Public float duration, tooltip, rough duration in seconds. Elbow Etchy is singing Titanic songs. So beautiful. All right, so this offset plus equals range delta times time at delta time. This is something I'm going to be changing right now. We're going to go ahead and make this range times active range delta times time at delta time divided by 100. That might be too high. We may need to divide it by 1,000. But the idea here is we want our offset to be based on how far away we are, because zooming while we're far away needs to be faster than zooming when we're close. This is actually not very fast. Yeah, our range is not decreasing very fast. But that's not bad, because I gave us this -1 here. Let's go ahead and make it into a -10. That's definitely more like what I had in mind. This is even still pretty slow, though. Boom. All right, so let's go ahead and change these values a little bit more. One of the difficult things here is that the ships are going to be radically different sizes, and we're going to have to adapt for that later. For now, however, we're not going to worry too much about it. Uh-oh. What happened here? The cinematic camera editor self-destructed. P, camera control schema P and camera control dot stack. If P. That's not a problem that's ever going to pop up for you folks. That's strictly a problem here in the debugger. Yeah, that's more or less what I'd like to see. Now the difficulty is that we are going to want to have this set up so that it understands how much time it has before the event begins. Alternately, we need to finish the arc before our system completes itself. So to do that, what we're going to have to do is set up a system to allow us to tell any camera asking whether or not we are ready to give up the ghost. So public float duration equals 0, and we'll go public bool playing get return. Well, what we actually need to do is have an event. So we'll go ahead and have an event for that. Public Unity event done with shot. So what we're going to do is here in choose shot, we're going to make our duration equal to the active shot dot duration. And here in manual update, we're going to go ahead and subtract it. So duration, I guess we should do this first. Duration minus equals time dot delta time. If duration is less than or equal to 0, then done with shot dot invoke and choose shot. Simple enough, right? So what we're going to go and have is this shot will be a 10-second shot. Oh, it got deselected there? No, that's fine. Good. When we hit play, we should see it stick to this shot for 10 seconds. And then restart. See that? So the problem here is that our restart is really poppy. You can see how this is really like bang. We have a couple of things we can do there. What I'd like to do is cut, where we actually have a classic wipe, but I don't know how to do that. So I guess I'll leave that in the background for now, and I'll just go ahead and let it jump for the moment. Another thing we need to do is set this up so that it continues to be called via manual update until the scenario is ready for anything to get played. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a public static, this should be a static Unity event. There we are. Boom. Now that it's static, we can sign up for it here in our scenario. So what we're going to do is when we create the scenario, we're going to sign up for it immediately. Camera, cinematic camera, camera control, cinematic cam dot done with shot live.addListener takeover scene. Live.takeover scene? Yeah, we better put this down here. Excuse me. So down here, we're going to go ahead and put in public void takeover scene. The camera is ready to give us control. So with that in mind, what we can do is just do all of our camera work here. And you might be wondering, what sort of camera work are we going to be doing? Well, we actually do this camera nonsense all over the place. See here? So what we would like to do is just take a look at how we build our camera. And I think that's mostly through the default method of spawning the camera in. So our camera is on our own object. And what we do when we are using the base player control system is on our awaken here, you can see what we do is we say add it to the stack if it exists. What we're going to need to do is change how that works. So what we're going to do is copy this awake. Do we have an awake here? No, so we're going to override it. And what we're going to want to do is this part's the same. This part needs to change a little bit because we're going to want to add in the this. Boom. And then down here in the takeover scene, which I think is at the bottom, just put that in. And you might be thinking, really? You're just delaying it? Oh, yeah. We'll see whether or not it seems to work. Bye, Erdroy. I think that you said that a long time ago, and you are long gone, but goodbye. Three, 2, 1, 0. Restart. Now we should have an event happen before this runs out. Yeah, and now you can see that we're in an event, but we haven't lost it. Now we have. See that? Nice, right? So here it says, not enough hotspots for our buddies, only 0 or 1 found. That's fine. The variable initial prefab. So here we're going to say, if live.initial prefab popup, then do it. That error is non-fatal, so we're not too worried about it, but since it's there, we'll go ahead and fix it. Now this shot is set to be 10 seconds long, but you can see that this is an extremely slow shot, and that 10 seconds is not the full duration that we're going to need. Rather than making it a longer shot, we're going to just go ahead and speed it up a little bit. That's not too bad. We're also going to want to... should we slow down as the shot reaches its end? I think that might be the best way to do this now that I'm thinking about it. Yeah, okay. So I've got a bunch of little changes I want to make to the cinematic cam. One is that right now we're multiplying by range, but what I would like to do is actually multiply by duration. Or rather, divide by duration. So that should allow us to move. Wait, that's actually wrong. I do want to do it multiply by duration. There. That will allow us to get this to work quite a bit slower as we move in, and faster when we're not. Another thing we can do is mathf.square root the duration, which will make it a little bit less pronounced. So we're also going to want to have this move the offset according to our setup. So offset equals active shot dot center progression. And then we say if offset dot magnitude is greater than 0, then offset equals offset dot x times target dot right plus offset dot y times target dot up plus offset dot z times target dot forward, and then we're going to add it in camera on a stick dot t dot no, not dot, yeah, dot t plus equals offset. With that in mind, what we're going to do here is we're going to have this have an offset, maybe 10 per second. This will be negative 200, and now let's see. Oh, I broke it. Oh, t dot position, of course. So now we should get a cinematic camera, which is much, much faster. And you can see how that zooms ahead of the ship. So let's go ahead and make this a little bit slower. So make this a 1. But that's kind of odd because it shouldn't have been anywhere near that. Oh, times time dot delta time. That's better. So 10 is probably closer to right than I thought. The only problem is I don't know if Z is correct. It might be that Y is correct. If we take a look here at the center of the ship versus the center of the camera, we should be able to tell whether we're moving in the correct direction. So here is the universe camera on a stick, and the ship is over there. So the universe camera on a stick Z is not what I thought it was. So what we're going to want to do is offset these with different values. Maybe? You know, I'm not sure. I think I might have screwed that up. So if we take a look at the universe cam on a stick, now okay, so let's just take a look here. Here's the universe camera on a stick. Oh, it's down. I'm looking at the wrong camera. Freaking hell. Okay, so hold on. This is not what I need after all. What I need to do is only look at the universe camera on a stick that is the core rather than the ship cam and stuff. And the way I can do that is I can take the ship cam and just do this, and that will actually hide it, see? So that's kind of neat, but we need to figure out where we're going here. If we go here, there we are. Come on, where are you? There we are. Whoa, why are we spinning so fast? Jesus. That's like really, really touchy all of a sudden. What we're going to want to do is just watch how this unfolds. You can see how we're moving forward through the ship. That's kind of the point. I want this to be a zoom past the ship. However, we're not zooming very fast, and that's because we got rid of the massive multiplication that we were doing. So we don't need to divide by 100 anymore because we're no longer multiplying by range. We're now multiplying by duration. This should make the animation literally 100 times faster. And we're pulling past the ship, so you can see that that's much too fast. So let's chip this down to 100. Okay, so if we're doing it like that, it needs to be 13 seconds long. Since we increased the duration, we changed these values, so I do think that 10 is fine. Let's tweak this. We're just kind of fussing around. I've never really played with these shots before. I'm not a camera guy, so this is definitely still a little bit makeshift, but it should be better than what we had. That still feels way too fast, doesn't it? We are multiplying this range offset by... Oh, but you know what? We're not offsetting the position by our duration. So when we tell it to zoom past the ship, it's still moving at 10 meters a second. That's why. So if we were to take this and put this down here, that would actually be more in line with what we need. Let's try that, shall we? That may even be just a bad idea in general. I'm thinking about it, and I'm trying to figure out the best way to do it. Alright, so I think that we want this to be just the way it is, like that. We can go ahead and make this, say, a 2, and then we can just increase the angle delta, and that should actually keep us from punching through the middle of the ship. Because that's my problem right now. We're actually passing through the ship when we're zooming in on it, and I would prefer to zoom past it rather than up its ass. Another option to do this would be to offset to the left. So you can see how we end up punching through it like that. Okay, so that's not working. Let's go ahead and... we have no initial offset set up here for the moment, but we could move a little bit up, like 0.2. Maybe that'll help. Sorry, I'm mostly just doing this boring camera manipulation stuff because I'm trying to make this work out. That works for this particular ship, but it's not going to work for every ship. What if this is -1? We're still going to have to multiply by the ship bounds at some point, but you can see that that is the shot I was going for. Hurrah! So now let's go ahead and create another shot. And we will call this the long nose shot. And it's going to be the same thing, but from 180 rather than from 0. And we're going to make this a -2 rather than a 2. Oh, I forgot to actually put in the part where it tells us what shot it's using. Although I can tell right away we're already using the nose shot here. Boom! So you can see that we're coming to the wrong side of the ship, but that's fine. That's not the right one. Got to be careful not to edit the wrong one. So what we're going to do now is put in a notification as to what shot we're using. So debug.log cinematic cam is using active shot.name shot. That said, we could look at the active shot and actually it would tell us, but that requires effort. So now let's do a slow nose shot. And the slow nose shot is going to have an initial range of 100 and initial ascension of 20 and a range delta of -2. This will be 0, and this will be -2. That's probably good. The slow nose shot should give us the impression of the ship passing under us. This might have to be -4. And then we're going to want a side pan shot. And the initial range will be, let's say 20. The initial angle will be 90. The initial ascension will be 5. The range delta will be 1, and the angle delta will be 5. Make this a 2. And we won't be moving at all. We'll be moving forward very slowly. How about that? So let's take a look and see whether or not this feels cinematic as we are watching it unfold. I'm so glad the parade is over. It was so loud. So right now we are... let's go ahead and take out this day past morning. It's just in the way. I think that we will not need it. So that was our side view. Nice, nice. And here is our slow nose shot. That looks good. That looks good. Oh, and now we have an event, and we zoom in. Great! So it looks like this is more or less what I would like to have happen. So, good. I accomplished it. I was a little bit worried because I'm not great with camera stuff. As in, I'm awful with camera stuff. Why is this so fast? Okay, that's weird. So, one of the things that we've done here is we've created a bunch of shots that are all the same length. Let's go ahead and change some of these lengths just a little bit so that it doesn't feel quite so awkward. So we're going to go ahead and turn this duration into 9. And maybe actually make it, yeah, 9 is fine. And maybe make it just a little bit faster. That's an angle delta, range delta. -110 should be enough. The slow nose shot can be 8, and the side pan shot can be 7. That'll just give us a little bit of variation in how it feels. These long shots are fine, but we don't want to have them feel too repetitive. So here we've got our 10-second chase shot, the longest shot we've got in our arsenal. I want it to feel long because you're trying to catch up to the ship. And then here is our slow pan shot, side pan shot. And then that perfect transition into our situation. Now, did you notice that it turned on the interior camera when it awoke rather than when it was added to the stack? That's something we're probably going to need to fix. See how this is in awake rather than on add to stack. The problem is that I don't believe the cameras control when they get added to the stack. I believe that they get added to the stack by the player controller. See? Just add to stack. So what we're going to want to do is change this to have a stack and an unstack command. So over in the camera schema, we're going to just go ahead and create a new value, public static void stack camera control schema. Public static void unstack camera control schema. Well, these aren't static. What am I talking about? Just make them normal values. And then what we're going to do here is make these virtual so that we can change their behavior. And then what we'll do is we will say stack.add this and stack.remove this. And we'll put this down in the actual value area rather than in the static area. So here, instead of calling stack.remove this, we'll call unstack. And there are a couple of other places where that gets called. One is here in the player control where we say camera schema.stack. Camera, do we have any other places where we talk about camera control schema? No, it doesn't look like it. Okay. And then the other place is over here in the scenario where we turn it on down here. Like so. That should allow us to... oh, I forgot to override. I'm an idiot. Over here in our scenario camera, we need to change this from an awake thing into an on stack thing. So override stack. There we are. Okay, on our exciting adventure down into the rabbit hole of space and time, we have created a cinematic camera, which is passable. We still need to create a cut, like swoosh. I don't actually know how to do that. Never had to do that in Unity. Oh, see that? I missed it. I wasn't looking at the screen. I was looking at a cup. Let's try that again and see whether or not it correctly flicks on the interior camera. So... okay, so 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, so I couldn't tell because it happened right at the edge of a camera view. Oh, good. It did. Good, good. So it looks like our nose view is really pretty poor now. So let's go ahead and fix that up. This long nose shot needs to be maybe 1200. It's just not up our nose enough. Good enough. We'll go ahead and leave that for later. Well, that was exciting. We now have a cinematic camera, and we have a scene which doesn't override the cinematic camera, but instead waits for it to finish its little panning before it starts to take control. This is good. It's a basic approach to giving the player more information about the type of game they can expect. If you're given an overview of the ship at all times, then you sort of feel like you should be controlling the ship at all times. But in this game, you're not really controlling the ship at all times. There's no reason to. Instead, what happens is you are only controlling the characters and specific rooms at specific times, and you only need to really control the ship if you're setting a new destination. That said, I have found a new physics simulation idea, a new algorithm for simulating physics on ships and structures that is very fast and convincing. And I'm tempted to create some prototype stuff for that. It wouldn't be part of this game. It would just be a separate prototype. But if I do that today, I won't have any more time for this today. I'm trying to think of what else I wanted to do with this today. There are a lot of things I have to do. Let's go ahead and play around just to see how it feels. Zow! That didn't work. Oh, we bumped our nose. So our slow nose cam is not working. What we're going to want to do is offset here to -1 or 1. Well, it actually needs to be fixed here. 1, 2. That's fine. So this is our slow nose shot, and it's not very slow. Our range is really the problem here. Our slow nose shot's range delta of -2 is just too much. Oh, because our range is only 100. Oh, no wonder. That's the slow nose shot, though. That's not the long nose shot. Am I getting the long nose shot and the slow nose shot confused? I am. So that's the ketchup. Here's the side pan shot. Those are the two good shots. And now that's it. We're done with the shots. All right. So here we are in the scene. And what we're trying to do is navigate around. But you can see that we don't have a functional camera yet. Our camera allows us to zoom in and move around, but it doesn't allow us to rotate up or rotate down. So we're stuck at this angle. We can click on people, and wow, something went horribly wrong there. I think that person was also involved in something there, but you can see that this is what we're supposed to see. Let's go ahead and expand this. Where are our characters? Why aren't we zooming in on them? Did we break the zoom in? Oh, we're under player control because I took the player control and now it assumes that that's all I want. Yeah, those two characters broke stuff. So the reason she vanished from movie view is because she was involved in another event. But this camera is awful and it needs to be fixed, and I don't feel up to it right now. My brain is a little bit sludgy. All right, so I think I'm going to stop here. I'll probably work on a prototype or two for the rest of the day. But there's no reason to stream that stuff because that actually gets distracting for me. It's not implementation. I need to really focus in a different way. So I'm going to say goodbye to all of you folks. If you have any questions, I'll stay in chat for a little while. But since I have 0 viewers, I don't think there will be any questions. Have a good one.